Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you all my second setup video. My previous video was showcasing my 240p setup, which is to say N64 and prior consoles. With my 20-inch broadcast monitor. It was kind of complicated, to be honest, but this video and this setup should be much simpler and achievable for the average viewer of this video, so that's a good thing. It's a consumer CRT, tons of these were made. So again, very doable, and hopefully it'll give you some ideas for your setup, if you're working on yours. It's hard to explain exactly what this setup is. I would say it's post N64, but before the HD console, so like PS2, GameCube, Xbox, Wii, and they're all hooked up via component, which I'll get into later. But much easier to understand, and especially if you're in North America where things like RGB and SCART weren't really a thing. So, alright, so before we get into the systems themselves, let's talk about the TV. It is a Sony Trinitron. The model is the KV-FS120. I don't think it's a top-of-the-line Sony Trinitron from back in the day, but it is one of the better CRTs ever made, just because it was probably one of the last, CRTs that Sony made. According to the back of the TV, it was manufactured in January 2005, so fairly recent, all things considered. What I like about it is that it has all of the kind of key video signals from at least the North American side of things. Like, for example, it has two component inputs, one in the front, as you can see here, with the yellow, white, and red cables, and then one in the back. One S video cable, which I currently do not use, or did I say S video cable? I meant S video slot. But yeah, not something I use at the moment, but it's nice to have, especially for something like the Dreamcast, or let's say the N64. And then it has one component slot, which is what I mainly use. I have a component switch right here. It is called the G-Comp-SW, I believe. And it has a whopping 8 component inputs and then 2 component outputs. So you can hook up 8 systems or whatever through component and then output them to, let's say, a TV like this, and then maybe your HD TV or your capture card if you stream or record videos for YouTube. So it's a great device. It is pricey, unfortunately, but again, it's called a G-Comp. If you Google G Retro stuff, you should be able to find it, but I will add a link to the person's page in the YouTube description. And what I like about this is that it switches automatically, so you don't have to press a button to play the system you want. It'll just do everything on its own, which is great for me because I said this in a lot of my videos, but the fewer barriers there are between you and playing your game, the more likely you are to play your systems. So I always highly recommend automatic switches for your retro stuff, or modern. But yeah, before I move on to the systems, I just want to show you all that in my setup there's a coffee table here and a smallish couch here, but I will be moving the tables just so I'll be able to take, it'll give me an easier time showcasing all the systems. So yeah, I just wanted to show you my setup here. Pretty comfortable, I would say. But yeah, let's move on. Alright, so let's start with the top left, the Wii. And this is one of the more iffy consoles in the setup as far as kind of video output goes. But yeah, so it naturally can output component, and there are official component cables that are somewhat widely available, not like the GameCube, which we'll get to later. So that's not an issue. However, the Wii was released at a strange time in 2006 where they erred on the side of caution and made it very kind of SDTV focused. But as the years went on, and as more people adopted HD TVs, the games were somewhat made around those. So I would say the earlier games for the Wii are best on an SD TV, and in some of the later games, I think they expected you to have a wider screen, and they're kind of awkward on an SD TV. So I wasn't sure which setup I would put it on, but ultimately I decided to put it on this one because I just prefer the Wii on CRT overall, and then also I just have more room in this area in case, there's multiplayer and, people are playing Wii Sports or something. So, yeah, I just decided to go with this TV. Don't have the sensor bar hooked up right now just because it's kind of a pain and it always gets tangled. So, to navigate the menu, I actually use the Wii Remote, which you have to use, but specifically the Classic Controller Pro, which is attached to the Wii Remote. And with that, you can control the cursor with the analog stick. So, just to sample the game, we'll look at New Super Mario Bros. Wii. It's actually a really good game. I think some people just universally trash the series in hindsight, but the New Super Mario Bros. Games for Wii and Wii U are actually really good. So, yeah. But, yeah, let's continue. I actually had to disconnect the Classic Controller because this game won't accept that. Won't be able to show much just because I'm holding the camera and won't be able to play, but we'll just show a little bit of the level. Fortunately, all my saves transferred to the Wii U, so I don't have much on this Wii system at the moment. Alright, so World 1-1. Let's do this. And by which I mean just move left and right. Yeah, so I mean, again, not much to showcase here, but it looks really good. I know taking video of an SD TV is always kind of shady. As I could definitely see on the preview screen that there's a lot of like distortion and weird stuff on the screen, but in person this looks really good. You're gonna have to take my word on that. You're gonna have to, I mean. Or not. Your choice. But yeah, let's move on to the next system. Alright, next up we're going to be doing the PS2. In this case, it's obviously the slim model, the white one. It loads the boot up screen faster, I believe, the slim. But maybe someone could correct me if I'm wrong. The classic Konami logo before they changed it to that kind of boring red logo. You'll never be able to guess what this is unless you've played this before. Yep, it's Contra. Updated for the early 2000s. Look at how badass this is, man. Not really. It's actually a pretty good game, Contra Shattered Soldier. I just wanted to show you how weird this opening is. PS2 games, I feel, need to be on a CRT. I don't know why. But they don't really look that good anywhere else, in my opinion. Like on HD TV. And while this is playing, I should also say that I use my PS2, or this PS2 rather, as my DVD player, just because it's the easiest to use of all the systems in the setup. Yeah, we're not going to stay on this for that long, but again, just how weird this is for a Contra game. Alright, we'll move on, I'm sure you were all dying to know how this is going to play out. Actually, it is done. I think. Okay. So yeah, 2002. Alright, let's move on to the GameCube. And obviously, as you can tell, this isn't the standard GameCube. It's much bigger and kitchen appliance looking. It is the Panasonic Q, the Japan-only GameCube that could also play DVDs. I did a review video on it, so if you want to know more, check that out. But yeah, we'll see how the GameCube works. Just wanted to show this. But yeah, otherwise it boots like a GameCube. The purple stands out much more on the actual TV. This is Mario Golf Toadstool Tour. A really good game on the GameCube. Definitely one of the best golf games ever. So the GameCube famously has very expensive component cables. I happened to get a couple pairs of component cables for cheap a long time ago on forums, so I don't know what I would recommend for your GameCube solution. Maybe S-Video or I heard there's some solutions now where they make you would actually use, even without a mod, you can kind of get the component signal out of the GameCube, so I would definitely look into those two solutions. Or you can use the Wii. The reason why I use the GameCube for GameCube games is because I just don't like using the Wii remote to navigate the menus. Because I find that like whenever I really want to use the Wii remote, the battery ran out or something, so I just like using the GameCube to play GameCube games. And though it's not relevant for this setup, it's more relevant to my 240p setup. The GameCube also has the Game Boy player, which allows you to play the Game Boy line of games on your TV, so the Wii cannot do that. So there are definitely reasons to use a GameCube in 2020. As you can see, this is an incredible cutscene. But yeah, there's not much else to say about the GameCube. It's unfortunate that the official component cables are very expensive now, and have been for the past, I don't know, 10, 15 years, but again, there are other solutions, and I'd recommend looking into those. We'll unfortunately have to cut this opening short, as it says goodbye. Alright, next we're going to show a system that I actually haven't talked about on this channel before, I don't think. And because of that fact, you might think that I don't like the original Xbox, but that couldn't be further from the truth. I think it's actually one of the most underrated systems as far as the retro gaming community goes. Because I would say in popular retro circles, the Xbox isn't really talked about, and partially for good reason. I mean, when you look at the system design, it kind of looks like a Mountain Dew branded system. It initially came with a huge controller that was off-putting. A lot of the games that were marketed were kind of Halo and sports games and like Tom Clancy games, so people might have been put off by that. But if you look further into the library, it actually has a lot of good exclusives, and you'll find that a lot of the third-party games, especially the Western ones, are best on Xbox because it was the most powerful console that generation. I love this opening, by the way, though. Graffiti is art. However, but yeah, if you couldn't tell already, this game is Jet Set Radio Future. One of the games Sega made for Xbox as part of a deal they made, as Microsoft was looking for as many developers as possible for their system as they entered the console industry. Obviously a very stylish game with the cel-shaded looking graphics. That's an awesome soundtrack. In terms of playing it, I prefer the Tony Hawk series and even Aggressive Inline, which is the rollerblading game. But this is good for other reasons, I would say. More than just playing it. I think it's more of like a quote-unquote experience. But yeah. As far as the component cables go for Xbox, I think the official ones are fairly expensive now, but there are a lot of third-party ones. And many games are backwards compatible through the 360 and even the Xbox One, though that can't easily be connected to a CRT. But yeah, I would definitely say the Xbox is underrated, even for like the typical retro fan who doesn't like Halo or sports games or whatnot. But yeah, let's move on to the final system, which I've shown before on my 240p setup. That is the N64. This is actually my childhood one, unlike the one on my 240p setup. But the reason why I have this hooked up here, and it's hooked up via composite right in the front of the TV, is because the N64 was kind of a 4-player like powerhouse, so it's not that fun to play 4-player games split screen on a 20-inch monitor, so I like using this TV for 4-player games. And I find that composite looks pretty good on the N64. I think Nintendo really designed the system around composite, which is weird to say, but yeah, for a lot of systems, I would say S-Video is like the bare minimum that you should use if you care about video signal and that kind of thing. But for N64, I'm actually okay with composite. Same with the NES. But yeah, let's try this out. I actually have to change the input because it is on the composite input. So yeah, as you can see, it looks pretty good. It's pretty sharp via composite, in my opinion. I love this opening music, by the way. This was kind of a strange game graphically because a lot of the course graphics are 3D, but otherwise you're looking at 2D sprite characters. You won't notice it as much while playing because they don't show you the faces really, but for something like this where it's like rotating the camera, it definitely looks a little weird, but I would say it's still the best racing game of that generation. But yeah, that's pretty much it as far as the N64 goes. Again, it's just for multiplayer mainly on this TV, or if I'm playing a single player game together with someone, because that's something I'll do actually. I have friends where we'll just play, Zelda Ocarina of Time or Mario 64. So it's nice to play the N64 on the big screen, as I think it was meant to be honest. But yeah, that's my setup. It's simpler. It doesn't have to be expensive if you don't want it to be. And mine kind of is because I have some weird, like the Panasonic Q. Like you don't need that, and you don't need the component cables necessarily, the official ones. So it can be as cheap as you want it to be, is what I'm saying. It's not as elaborate as my other setup, which is nice. And this kind of setup is great if you also have the HD Retrovision cables, like for your Super Nintendo or Genesis or whatever, where they output through component. They would fit right into the G-Comp right there. And that's the thing. I mean, you won't find that many component, consoles that put out component naturally, just because it was kind of a short-lived signal as far as the game industry was concerned. It pretty much only existed from the PS2 to the PS3, I guess, or maybe Wii U. But again, it's like it didn't last long, and it was kind of a stopgap between, like RGB and HDMI. So, yeah. So, thanks for watching the video. I hope this was somewhat informative, and I look forward to kind of hearing from you all and your setups. I'll be back soon, hopefully, and yeah, see you soon.